It is my personal belief that sometimes in life we need to attempt big, scary things in order to stay out of our comfort zone and keep things interesting. To show you what I mean, I'm gonna take you on a journey which starts at the northwestern corner of Germany, right at the shore with the Northern Sea. It involves big boats and some heavy-duty machinery. It all starts in this tiny little harbor close to the border with the Netherlands in a small village called Petkum. It's fair to say that the harbor itself and its residents have seen better days. I came here because of a listing for a boat that immediately struck my attention. At the time, it seemed completely ridiculous to even consider buying such a big boat. Where will I even put it? How will I get the money to build it up? And most importantly, how will I even get it to Berlin? And yet, as soon as I stepped my first foot on it, I decided then and there that those problems were something for my tomorrow self to worry about. But before we get to that, let's have a quick look at some of the features. It's 17 meters long and almost 5 meters wide. It comes from a time where steel boats were still riveted together. The mooring cleats are huge. The steel deck plates, also riveted, have a beautiful checkered pattern. And my favorite little Easter egg of them all is this round shaft that goes straight through the hull of the boat and which can be used for an anchor pole. On the inside we can see some dirt, a little bit of rust and watertight compartments. So here I was, proud new owner of this old barge, unaware of the headache that the question of the transport was going to cause me. To make a long story short, transport over land promised to be the most affordable and fastest option. So I first had the boat shipped to the nearest shipyard where it would be possible to hoist it out of the water and load it onto a truck. Once I had coordinated the transport with the various companies, I drove back down to the shipyard to supervise the operation. To understand the kind of pressure I was under on that day, you need to know that at this point nothing was guaranteed. There were still a lot of unanswered questions which could lead to the failure of this entire undertaking. For example, the actual weight of the boat could be more than what I was initially told. There were a bunch of poles and other structures that had to be cut so that the convoy wouldn't exceed the maximum height. The flatbed truck arrived first on the site. A little while later, the crane delighted us with its presence. Once in position, the crane needs to be stabilized. Next, it can lift up its arm and allow the workers to install the hanging gear. In the meantime, the flatbed truck goes into position. Here, the shipyard workers are installing the crane trusses and then hook up the boat harness. Now all they have to do is to slide the harness around the boat and then they can lift it up. The crane has a scale built in So at this point we found that the boat was not too heavy. And with that, green light to load it onto the truck. I cannot describe with words the anxiety I felt during those few seconds the boat was hanging in the air, or even the huge relief once the boat was finally on the flatbed truck. Anyway, the deed was finally done and we can move on to the next steps. Although there was one little issue. You may notice that the boat was placed directly onto the flatbed truck when normally one would line the bed with thick pieces of wood where the boat can then rest on, and which would allow you to remove the straps once the boat is in its resting position. However, in my case, somewhere, somehow, information got lost and nobody cared to bring any wood. So I was faced with the choice to either put the boat back into the water, still pay for everything of course, then order everything again on another day, or just drop the boat like this, with the straps being stuck, and then I would have to pay for the straps, because allegedly they would be damaged from the transport. Of course I chose the latter, everything else would be ludicrous, and with that we were ready to move on. Alright my dear, have a good trip and see you in Berlin. Because of its oversize, such a transport can only drive at night. So at 4 AM I took delivery of my new boat. In a skillful maneuver, the driver placed it right underneath the crane. The next morning, with the boat just sitting there on the truck and a few hours to kill before we go ahead with the move, I could finally take some time to have a closer look at what I actually got. Although a little danged up in some areas, the hull appears to be in exceptional good condition considering its age of almost 70 years. The entire side has been patched up with what appears to be 8mm thick steel plates. The floor of the boat is absolutely flat. Here we can see where the riveted steel plates are overlapping. The stern is adorned with some kind of a fin. Now then, let's get moving. First, we'll have to reposition the truck. At this point it was really convenient that the belts were already under the boat. Now it's just a matter of hooking them up to the truss and then we can lift the boat off the flatbed truck. Now the truck can drive away from underneath and be on its way. The crane indicates a total weight of 18 tons, that is including the truss, which weighs 1.5 tons, which gives us a total weight of about 16.5 tons. At this point it was decided to put the boat down flat on its belly in order to not overstress the crane. Because now it's time to get the self-propelled trailer. If you've ever been in a boat winter storage, then I'm sure you've seen a self-propelled trailer. This here is a particularly large specimen, and it is, next to the crane, the most important machine to move big boats. So all we have to do is lift the boat up again, put the trailer underneath, and then drop it at its allocated slot. Well, that's easier said than done, because in order for this to work, the boat needs to be positioned very precisely on the trailer. A deviation of just a few centimeters in one direction or the other could lead to problems later on when trying to get the trailer back out from underneath. This is why the guys from the marina here really take their time to avoid any mistakes, especially with such a big boat. Once the boat is in the right position on the trailer, they can extend 4 hydraulic supports to stabilize the boat on the trailer. And with that, the crane's job is done, and the self-propelled trailer takes the lead in this dance. Now all that's left is to bring the boat to its final destination, prop it up on a bunch of different supports, and get the trailer back out from underneath. Frankly, at this point, not much is left that can go wrong. But if you've ever heard of Murphy's Law, you know that this is not the end of it. The ground was too soft, and the wheels of the trailer ended up digging themselves in, halting any further movement forward. All in all, it was just a few meters short, so it was decided to just prop it up right there. A couple of big blocks of wood will serve as the buffer material for the boat to rest on. A couple of heavy-duty stands will serve as support on each side. Next, we have to build a structure to support the rear of the boat. Here once again, big blocks of wood are the material of choice. Now let's lower it down gently, retract the hydraulic support pillars, and slowly get the trailer out from underneath. And with that, the longest and scariest undertaking of this year, as far as I'm concerned, finds a happy ending. In retrospect, I have to admit that I pushed my luck pretty far with this one. Several times I was in a position where, if circumstances had just been a little less favorable, the entire project could have failed. In fact, here in Germany, we have a saying that applies pretty well to me in this case. But then on the other hand, there is another saying that may apply here. So I'm gonna leave you with that. Thank you for watching, and hopefully see you soon.